The stars have always called to us, whispering secrets we're too small to hear. For millennia, we've stared into the night, wondering if the vastness holds anything that stares back. In 1977, we sent a tiny messenger into that abyss, a fragile craft named Voyager 1, carrying a golden record etched with the sounds of Earth, laughter, music, the sigh of wind through trees. It was a hopeful gesture, a bottle tossed into the cosmic ocean, meant to drift forever or perhaps be found by someone, something out there. For decades, Voyager sailed through the dark, outlasting its creator's wildest dreams, its faint signals reaching back to us from the edge of our solar system. Then, in the cold silence of interstellar space, 15 billion miles from home, it found something. Not a planet, not a star, but something moving, deliberate, alive with purpose, and utterly unknown. The data it sent back wasn't just numbers. It was a tremor that shook the foundations of everything we thought we knew about the universe. This is the story of Voyager's encounter, a moment that cracked open the silence of the cosmos and left us breathless, wondering what or who waits in the dark. Voyager 1 was never meant to live this long. Launched in an era of bell-bottoms and disco, it was a marvel of human ingenuity, a box of wires and dreams powered by a fading nuclear heart. Its mission was simple: visit the outer planets, snap photos of Jupiter's swirling storms and Saturn's rings, then drift onward, a silent ambassador to the stars. By the time it passed Pluto's orbit, its cameras were long dark, its instruments whispering data back to Earth in a language of ones and zeros. It had already rewritten textbooks, revealing the fury of volcanic moons and the delicate dance of planetary rings. But the universe had more to show. Beyond the heliosphere, where the sun's warm breath fades into the icy grip of interstellar space, Voyager crossed a threshold no human-made object had ever touched. The heliopause, that invisible boundary where our star's influence wanes, felt like the edge of everything, until it wasn't. In the quiet of that frontier, where the solar wind no longer sings, Voyager's instruments picked up a signal, faint at first, like a heartbeat in the void. It wasn't the familiar hum of cosmic rays, or the echo of a distant supernova. This was different, rhythmic, coordinated, and moving. The anomaly appeared in the plasma wave data, a subtle ripple in the sea of charged particles that fill the spaces between stars. Scientists at NASA, hunched over screens in a control room thousands of miles from the craft, didn't notice it at first. Voyager had sent back odd spikes before, ghosts of solar flares or shockwaves from ancient stellar explosions. But this signal had a cadence, a pulse that seemed to breathe. It wasn't random noise. It was a pattern, deliberate and unnerving. As they pored over the data, a shape began to emerge, not in pixels, but in numbers. Changes in magnetic fields, shifts in cosmic ray intensity, all pointing to something massive, something that moved with intention. It wasn't orbiting a star or tumbling like an asteroid. It glided through space, shifting laterally, pausing, then accelerating in ways that defied the laws of motion as we know them. No comet, no rogue planet, no chunk of cosmic debris could move like this. It was as if the object, or whatever guided it, knew where it was going, as if it had a will of its own. The realization hit like a thunderclap. This wasn't just an object. It was something that might be artificial. The word hung heavy in the air, unspoken at first, as scientists grappled with the implications. Natural phenomena follow rules: gravity, inertia, the relentless tug of celestial bodies. But this thing broke those rules. Its velocity fluctuated, not in the predictable arcs of orbital mechanics, but in sudden bursts, as though it chose when to move and when to wait. Its electromagnetic emissions weren't the dull glow of heated rock or the scatter of reflected starlight. They suggested something alive with energy, radiating in patterns that hinted at modulation, like a signal crafted with purpose. And then, there was the way it seemed to respond. Each time Voyager's faint telemetry adjusted, the object's emissions shifted, as if it sensed the probe's presence and acknowledged it. The idea was staggering. Two travelers, one from Earth, one from somewhere else, meeting in the vast emptiness, each aware of the other's existence. For decades, we'd sent signals into the void. Radio waves, golden records, prayers, hoping for a reply. The Fermi paradox loomed over us. That nagging question of why the universe seemed so silent despite its staggering size. Were we alone, or were we just too small to notice the others? Voyager's encounter suggested an answer, not with fanfare, but with a quiet, chilling clarity. The object's movements weren't random. They were relational. They didn't drift past Voyager, like a ship passing in the night. It lingered, matching the probe's trajectory, as if curious, as if studying this tiny intruder from a distant world. The heliopause, that symbolic frontier between our sun's domain and the galaxy beyond, took on a new meaning. It wasn't just a boundary. It was a meeting place, a threshold where something, or someone, had chosen to wait. The thought was both thrilling and terrifying. What kind of mind, what kind of power, could navigate the interstellar dark with such precision? The object's presence rewrote the rules of possibility. No technology on Earth could explain its motion. We dreamed of ion drives and warp bubbles, scribbled equations for propulsion systems that might one day carry us to the stars. But this was no dream. It was real, moving in silence, unperturbed by the chaos of cosmic radiation or the pull of distant stars. It manipulated the magnetic field around it, twisting the heliospheric current sheet, the sun's spiraling veil of influence, like a curtain drawn aside, then released. No asteroid could do that. No comet could bend the fabric of space with such control. The data hinted at something engineered, something that might have been built by hands, or minds, far older and wiser than our own. And yet it didn't approach Voyager. It didn't send a clear message or a dramatic display. It simply watched, its silence louder than any signal we could have imagined. Imagine standing at the edge of a cliff, staring into a fog so thick it swallows the world beyond. That's what it felt like for the scientists back on Earth, their screens glowing with Voyager's data, each bite a breadcrumb leading deeper into the unknown. The object, whatever it was, hadn't just passed by Voyager, one like a cosmic wanderer. It lingered, its presence a quiet challenge to everything we thought we understood about the universe. Out there, 15 billion miles away, in the desolate stretch of interstellar space, something moved with purpose, bending magnetic fields, radiating energy, and seeming to notice our tiny probe. It wasn't a planet or a star, not a comet or a cloud of gas. It was something else, something that felt like it was watching, waiting, perhaps even deciding what to do next. The air in NASA's control rooms grew heavy with questions no one dared ask aloud. Was this a machine, a vessel, or something so alien that our language couldn't capture it? As the data kept streaming in, faint and fragmented across the vast distance, the mystery deepened, pulling humanity into a story we weren't sure we were ready to hear. The object's behavior was maddeningly elusive, like a shadow that shifts just as you turn to look at it. Voyager's instruments, old and battered by decades of cosmic radiation, weren't designed to chase ghosts. They could measure magnetic fields, count cosmic rays, and listen to the hum of plasma waves, but they couldn't paint a picture of what this thing was. Yet the numbers told a story. The object didn't drift aimlessly like space debris or follow the predictable paths of celestial bodies. It moved laterally, cutting across the expected trajectories of anything bound by gravity. Sometimes it surged forward, its velocity spiking as if propelled by some unseen engine, only to slow to a near standstill, hovering in the void. It was as if it were testing the waters, probing the space around Voyager, curious about this intruder from a distant star. The electromagnetic signals it emitted were even stranger, pulsing in patterns that seemed too regular to be natural, too complex to be random. They reminded some scientists of a heartbeat, others of a code, but no one could crack it. Each pulse felt like a question, directed not just at Voyager, but at the minds on Earth, trying to make sense of it all. What made the encounter truly unsettling was the object's interaction with its surroundings. The heliospheric current sheet, a vast, spiraling magnetic structure spun out by the sun, rippled in its presence. The data showed it bending, twisting, then snapping back into place as if the object had reached out and tugged at the fabric of space itself. No natural body, no asteroid, no moon, could do that. It suggested a level of control, a mastery over the forces that govern the cosmos, that humanity could only dream of. Some speculated it was a propulsion system, something that manipulated magnetic fields to glide through the interstellar medium. Others wondered if it was less a vehicle and more a being, something that existed in harmony with the universe's unseen currents. The thought was both beautiful and terrifying. What kind of intelligence could wield such power? Not with brute force, but with the precision of a painter brushing a canvas. And why was it here, at the heliopause, the very edge of our sun's reach, as if it knew Voyager would pass by? The idea that this object might be artificial brought a flood of new questions. If it was a machine, who built it? The symmetry was almost too perfect. Voyager, our own humble probe, meeting another in the vast emptiness. But this wasn't like Voyager. Our craft was a relic, coasting on momentum and gravity assists, its power dwindling with every passing year. This thing moved with intent, bending its path at will, radiating energy that suggested an internal source far beyond our technology. It was as if Voyager had stumbled across the work of a civilization that had long since outgrown the cradle of its homeworld. The scientists began to imagine what such a civilization might be like. To build something capable of navigating interstellar space, enduring millennia of cosmic wear, and manipulating the very forces of the universe would require not just engineering, but wisdom. A deep, ancient understanding of reality itself. This wasn't the work of a species taking its first steps into the stars. This was the handiwork of one that had already claimed them. The object's reaction to Voyager added another layer of mystery. It didn't just notice the probe, it seemed to adjust to it. When Voyager's telemetry shifted, broadcasting its faint signals back to Earth, the object's emissions changed in response, as if it were listening, analyzing, maybe even replying in a language we couldn't yet understand. The data showed brief spikes in its energy output, like a spotlight flickering on and off, each one timed too perfectly to be coincidence. It was relational, not random, a dance of signals between two travelers in the dark. Some dared to wonder if the object had already known about Voyager, perhaps tracking it for years as it crossed the heliosphere. The golden record, with its songs and greetings, might have been more than a message in a bottle. It might have been a beacon, drawing the attention of something that had been watching from the shadows. The thought sent chills through the team. Had humanity's first step into the cosmos already been noticed, catalogued, and studied by eyes we couldn't see? As the data poured in, a new signal emerged, faint and fleeting, like a whisper carried on the wind. It wasn't from Earth, nor was it a reflection of Voyager's own transmissions. It came from beyond the probe, layered into the static, a rhythmic pulse, too precise to be natural, too brief to be analyzed fully. It lasted only moments, a sequence of beats that felt like the echo of a distant drum, then vanished. The scientists called it the secondary pulse. But in their hearts, they wondered if it was something more. A greeting, a scan, or perhaps a warning. They replayed the data endlessly, searching for meaning in the numbers, but it was gone as quickly as it had appeared. The object didn't repeat the signal. It didn't need to. That single fleeting moment was enough to shift the ground beneath humanity's feet. It was as if the universe had blinked, acknowledging our presence, then turned away, leaving us to grapple with the weight of what we'd found. The silence that followed was deafening. Voyager 1, drifting through the interstellar dark, had brushed against something profound, a presence that moved with purpose, that seemed to see our little probe and respond. That fleeting pulse, that rhythmic whisper from beyond, lingered in the minds of those who studied it, a ghost of a signal that refused to be forgotten. Scientists pored over the data, their screens filled with graphs and waveforms, each line a thread in a tapestry they couldn't yet read. The object had vanished into the void as quickly as it appeared, leaving only echoes in Voyager's instruments and a cascade of questions that rippled far beyond the control rooms of NASA. It hadn't attacked, hadn't approached, hadn't revealed itself in a burst of light or a clear message. It had simply been there, watching, then moved on, as if it had seen enough. But its brief presence changed everything. The universe, once a vast stage for humanity's lonely performance, now felt alive, populated by actors we couldn't see, playing roles we couldn't fathom. Voyager's encounter wasn't just a discovery. It was an invitation to rethink our place in the cosmos, to wonder what else might be waiting just beyond the reach of our senses. Back on Earth, the weight of the event settled like dust after a storm. The data was dissected, debated, and scrutinized. But the object itself was gone, slipping back into the infinite darkness. Voyager, with its fading power and aging circuits, couldn't chase it. It could only continue its journey, a blind messenger carrying the memory of a moment that had shifted the human perspective forever. The secondary pulse, that strange, deliberate signal, became an obsession for some. Was it a greeting, a hand extended across the stars? Or was it a warning, a quiet assertion that we were trespassing in a realm not our own? The rhythm of it haunted the scientists. Its mathematical precision too perfect to be a fluke, too brief to be decoded. They ran simulations, built models, and argued late into the night. But the truth remained just out of reach. The object had acknowledged Voyager, had perhaps acknowledged us, and then chosen to leave. That choice, that deliberate withdrawal, felt more significant than any dramatic encounter could have been. It suggested intent, restraint, and a kind of wisdom that made humanity feel small in comparison. The philosophical ripples spread far beyond the laboratories. For centuries, we'd asked whether we were alone, sending signals into the void and straining to hear a reply. The Fermi paradox, with its cold logic, had taunted us. If the universe is so vast, where is everyone? Voyager's encounter offered no clear answers, but it cracked the paradox open, letting in a sliver of light. Maybe the universe wasn't silent because it was empty. Maybe it was silent because others were watching, waiting, choosing when and how to reveal themselves. The heliopause, that frontier where our sun's influence fades, seemed less like a boundary and more like a doorstep, a place where two worlds, two stories, could briefly meet. The object's presence there felt deliberate, as if it had been stationed at the edge of our system, a sentinel, or an explorer from a civilization that knew more about the stars than we could imagine. The thought was humbling, but it also sparked a fire of curiosity, a yearning to know what lay beyond our reach. What kind of civilization could create such a thing? The question echoed in every discussion, from scientific conferences to late-night conversations in quiet homes. If the object was a probe, like Voyager, It was no mere machine. It moved with a grace and power that suggested a deep understanding of the universe's mechanics, a mastery of forces we were only beginning to grasp. It wasn't just technology. It was a statement, a testament to a species that had tamed the chaos of space and time. Some imagined a civilization ancient beyond measure, its cities spanning star systems, its history written in the light of long-dead suns. Others pictured something stranger, not a society as we know it, but a consciousness woven into the fabric of the cosmos itself, a mind that existed in the spaces between stars. The object's silence, its refusal to engage further, suggested a kind of patience, as if it knew that any true contact would demand more than a single encounter. It had seen Voyager, perhaps read the Golden Record with its songs and greetings, and chosen to nod and move on, leaving us to wrestle with the implications. The encounter also forced us to look inward. For all our achievements, our cities, our science, our dreams of reaching the stars, we were still infants, our technology fragile against the vastness of the cosmos. Voyager 1, a marvel of its time, was a testament to human ambition. But it was also a relic, its power fading, its voice growing fainter with every passing year. The object it met was something else entirely, a creation that seemed to laugh at the limits of physics as we understood them. It challenged us to imagine what we might become, given time, given knowledge. Would we one day build machines that could dance through the interstellar dark, bending magnetic fields and speaking in pulses of light? Or would we remain tethered to our small blue world, forever shouting into the void, hoping for an answer? The encounter didn't just reveal something about the universe, it revealed something about us, our curiosity, our fear, our relentless need to know. As Voyager continued its lonely journey, its signal growing ever weaker, the world it left behind buzzed with new energy. The discovery didn't unite humanity in some grand cinematic moment. It divided us, as great truths often do. Some saw it as a call to action, a reason to double down on exploration, to build new probes and telescopes to search the stars. Others felt a quiet dread, wondering if we'd been noticed by something we weren't ready to meet. The object's silence left room for every hope and fear to flourish, filling the gaps with our own stories. But one thing was certain. The universe was no longer just a backdrop. It was a stage, alive with possibility, where other players might be moving, watching, waiting. Voyager, our tiny ambassador, had brushed against one of them, and in that moment, the cosmos became a little less lonely, a little more alive. The story doesn't end with answers. It ends with a question, one that will echo for generations. What else is out there? Voyager 1, now drifting farther into the dark, carries the memory of that encounter, its instruments still whispering to us until the day they fall silent. The object it met is gone, lost to the vastness, but its presence lingers in our minds, a reminder that the universe is patient,